Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, 9 straight years and running, as named by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, the team from GulfCoast Financial Services, and as always, founder and CEO John Kuykendall here with us, providing us the guidance. John, you've got this great resource available on your website, gulfcoastfinancial.net. It is the ebook of The Road to Financial Wellness. And I know that one of the best tools, one of the most commonly utilized tools on our road to financial wellness for this generation, it's got to be the employer-sponsored plan. There's a few different variations, but the most common one and version of that is the 401k. A lot of Americans using them. A lot of wealth is built up in these 401k accounts, and yet there's still a lot we don't seem to know or understand about them.
Well, Peter, they haven't been around all that long. I mean, we started them in the late 80s and did away with the defined benefit plans where you got a check each month from your company. And the onus was put more on the individual to save for their retirement. And so the 401k is a great way to save and to build your retirement fund and do it kind of painless because it comes out of your paycheck. You really don't miss it. It's just a great way to save.
Every financial option that is out there available, John, has some pros and cons, some benefits, some disadvantages, and we need to understand both sides and able to, in an effort to make more informed, wise financial decisions. So, if you don't mind, would you run through what you need to know about a 401k kind of 101 class overview with us?
Well, Peter, the best thing and the most important thing is it's systematic. Each pay period, the company's going to take out a certain amount of money that you've designated to be put aside into the 401k and invested. Now, because it is systematic, there's also matches. And so it's free money, Peter. So if the company matches 5% of whatever I put up, I've already made that. And so whether I go in the market or not, I'm already ahead because I'm getting free money. So if I put in $100 and I get $50 from the company, I've already made 50%.
Yeah, no other place in the financial world you can get that kind of guaranteed immediate return. Certainly one of the biggest benefits of the 401k, and that systematic nature of those contributions forces us into good habits forming with our money that we are saving because, John, we also have another kind of bad habit as part of human nature. If the money comes home with us, it finds a way to get spent. So at least this way it's getting saved. And I think that is probably attributable to why this generation has been able to build up so much personal wealth and investment.
I think so, Peter. I always think back to a mentor I had when I first got into banking, and I took a job at a sister bank, and I was going to make a huge salary increase. And I told my mentor, who was really upset I was leaving him, I said, "Look, I'm going to be able to take all that money and save it, and I'll just be that much further ahead." And he said, "John, let me explain something to you." He said, "You're going to live up to what you make, and so if you don't set it aside, you will spend it." You will use it for the necessities of life at that point in time, and we're not really thinking about the future. The 401k gives us that option, and we really don't miss it, Peter. I mean, I don't know how many clients I've had who don't even realize how much they're putting in because it just comes out.
Well, that is a good problem to have, or a good situation when you don't miss your money and you're saving it for your future self to use it.
Well, you live on what you make. And so that money is set aside. And like I said, with the match, it's just a way to get free money. Certainly we should do that. It's free money. And we always want to put up as much as we can. Now, the one thing we have to remember, we keep preaching on this show, is that taxes are going to be increasing in the future. We know that. We have to have more debt, more taxes in order to pay for the debt. So and in 2026, the tax laws change. So this is deferred. Now, if you have a Roth option, it's better to go ahead and pay the taxes now and put that money into the Roth, still get the match if they have it, but let that money grow tax-free for you.
I'm glad you bring that up because, of course, the topic of the program today is we are talking 401ks, but there are always other options out there and available. But John, in the hierarchy of priorities, is the 401k in our order of operations of what we should be doing, at least up to the point where we receive a match? Is that maybe the pinnacle top place that we should be saving and investing our funds, in your opinion, or your experience of people who have been successful?
Well, I think that what we want to do is we want to put in as much as we can to get the match. So once we've got that, and if our company doesn't have a Roth option, then we may want to consider contributing to a Roth on the outside. Certainly, that's a way that we can build that money tax free. Also, life insurance is a great way to build equity for later, and take that money out at retirement, and live on the income off the life insurance policy. So there are several other options we can try, and certainly it depends on each individual case. And we need to run that income plan to really determine what's best for them. But we always want to get the match, Peter, no matter what.
Well, you bring up another point here that nowadays, more often than not, there's actually a subset of options inside of the 401k of the traditional or the Roth. And
Mm-hmm.
that's under the umbrella of the 401k, but it's a decision that is important and up to us. So not quite William Shakespeare here, but the question becomes to defer or not to defer, right?
Right. I mean, well, that's the thing. And, with the tax calculator that we have here in our office, we can sit down and explain to you how much it's going to cost you in present dollars to go ahead and not take the tax credit now, pay the taxes now, but still put the money in the Roth, in the 401k Roth, and show you those options. This 401k Roth option was only in part of Secure Act 2.0. So it isn't that it's new, and a lot of companies don't offer it. And if your company doesn't offer it, you should certainly suggest to them that they make it available to you.
Well, I think that is why, John, a lot of folks who have been saving in the 401k over the course of their career and are just now getting to the stages where they are making that transition, considering it, or living in retirement and utilizing those dollars, they're realizing that, hey, these dollars are now taxable to me now in retirement, and looking back with hindsight saying, I wish I woulda, coulda, should have done this Roth option, but it wasn't even really widely available. So we shouldn't look
No.
back at that as a mistake. In fact, given where tax rates and brackets have been and where they've come to now, it probably was still an advantageous thing to defer and delay paying those taxes. It's just now maybe a critical moment in time to manage those taxes.
Well, that's right, Peter. And that's one reason that we're talking about Roth conversions all the time to people. And at 59, you can do an in-service distribution in most 401s. And that's an ideal time before you actually get on Medicare and Social Security to consider doing some Roth conversions so that we can get that money converted over into a tax-free instrument, pay the taxes now, and not have it affect your Medicare Part B and your Social Security prescription plan, because those are indexed for income. I really believe that in the future, more Medicare and also more Social Security is going to be indexed for income. So the amount of money we get in Social Security will be determined somewhat by how much money we make. And when you've got those mandatory distributions, and I've got people right now, Peter, that are getting $50, $60, $80,000 a year in required minimum distributions with money they don't need, which is pushing them into a different tax bracket, making them pay more for their Medicare, more for their prescription drug card. It's one of the, and more their Social Security is taxable because 85% of your Social Security is subject to taxes. So those are things that we need to plan for before we get to be 65.
And that's the critical takeaway from this point, right? Is that if you do some proactive pre-planning, you may be able to avoid some of those negative impacts down the road, and the opportunities to do so, to do that pre-planning. John, you mentioned that in-service distribution. I think we need to hit on that point a little bit more to maybe key in on who is eligible for that, but also those older 401ks that seem to be out
Yeah.
there so often left behind and sort of stagnant can do some proactive planning with those as well.
Oh, sure. If you've got a 401k, and I met with a client the other day who's had four of them and scattered with different companies that she'd worked at for over a period of time, we can consolidate those, put them into one plan, and then we can determine if we need to do a Roth conversion so that we can put it into a tax-free instrument. The thing you have to remember, Peter, is Roths haven't been around all that long. I mean, we taught everyone in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s to defer because that was what was available to us. Then we came out with the Roths. And now we've got the Roth 401s. So these are new instruments that are fairly new that we need to take advantage of. But we were taught originally defer, defer, defer. That's not the only option. And that financially focused income plan will give you all the information you need to make a determination on how we can do it. And an in-service distribution, Peter, is merely taking it from your custodian where your 401k is, moving it to another custodian, and then being able to actively manage it. One of the cons of a 401 is you're limited in your options. The investment options are decided by the company, your company, because they have a fiduciary responsibility now. They're required to make sure that the plan doesn't have a lot of risky things, that it's acceptable, that it meets all the standards of fiduciary, that it will take care of you. So they're very conservative in what approach they take and very limited in the investment options, much more so than they used to be. So it may be a great time to get more diversification.
Well, in order to achieve and meet that fiduciary standard across numerous employees whose situations may all be very different, they tend to narrow down that choice of investment options, right? Only to a select handful. And I think that is where the prevalence of the availability of this in-service distribution option, John, at 59 and a half, where you can take the money out and yet still continue to contribute and participate in the plan, capture the match, not pay tax on those dollars at that moment when you remove them. But I think that is why that has become so widely available, is that they understand the responsibility of doing the best thing for their employee around that age may not be to continue to sort of hold the money captive inside of the plan, right?
That's right. I mean, you got to understand that when we used to look at a 401k plan, we'd have 2 or 3 pages of investment options. I mean, there'd be all kinds of things you can invest your money in. Well, after all the turn down, 2008, 2000, 2002, and all the volatility we've had, 401ks have evolved now where most of it is in target funds. So I've got a 2035, a 2045 fund. And those funds are fine, but they really aren't great for everybody, and they limit what you can invest in. So the theory is, as I get closer to retirement, my money's going to be put more into bonds and conservative options than it is in the market. The market could be going sky high, but all of a sudden I'm limited to a 4 or 5% return. Those are the problems with the target funds. So this gives you the availability with an in-service distribution at 59 and a half to invest the money into other options, diversify based on your risk, and have someone manage your money and give you more investment options than what you'll get inside the 401.
I've heard sort of a rough analogy for the target date funds that participating in a 401k is like putting your car on cruise control or putting an airplane on autopilot for the aviation folks out there. But using those target date funds, they don't adjust for conditions. So using those is kind of like putting it on cruise control and then hopping in the back seat and taking a nap, right? Is that we're not going to actually adjust for real world conditions. It's sort of just a predetermined algorithm, which if we're younger, John, may be completely appropriate, but certainly as we get in the home stretch, we want to make sure that we are doing the best thing for here and now and into the future. And we do want funds that are perhaps a little bit more actively managed for ongoing and changing real world conditions.
Yeah, you're right, Peter. The bond funds can be totally off, I mean, totally down like they were a couple of years ago before we started having these interest rate hikes. And still, because I'm in a target fund, I'm being invested in bonds that are losing money because that's what they're required to do based on the algorithm. So I think that this gives us more options, it gives us more flexibility, and it gets you to kind of target the fund based on your risk, not on the investment, not on the fund, but more so on the individual.
Back to the benefits side of the equation here, the pros of the 401k, John, is that it's generally got some higher contribution limits. We can get more into it saved and invested than several of the other options that we may have available. That is certainly going to be advantageous.
Well, that's certainly right. I mean, a younger individual, younger than 50, can put $23,000 into the 401, where we're limited to 6,500 if we did an individual Roth or an individual IRA. So certainly there's more contribution. There's also a $7,500 catch up if you're over 50. So it's a lot. It gives us a lot more options to put our money in and defer more money. But certainly, Peter, you know, it's something that we all should invest in if it's available to our through our company.
I know sometimes we are tempted to use that 401k a little early with the availability of loan provisions for certain limited reasons. We should not be tempted by that, right, John? Don't use the 401k as like an ongoing piggy bank. Even if you are paying yourself back, you're still losing that additional forward progress, maybe pushing retirement goals back that much further.
That's right. I used to have a client that was always happy because she was borrowing from herself. But as I explained to her, you're borrowing from yourself and you're paying back 5% interest, which is what her plan called for. But at that point in time, the market was making 12, 13, 14. That money was taken out of the plan, didn't have the opportunity to make that much because she had borrowed against it and was paying 5%. So certainly, if you can get that cheaper from the bank, that's one way to do it. The 401k should be the last resort. The other thing too, Peter, there are two other common problems I always have with people. One is they want to cash it out because, instead of moving it to another, they say, it's only $8,000. I'm just going to take the money. And then they pay the penalty that, the money's gone and it's like free money. I don't understand it. It's their money. They saved it.
I was gonna save it for an anecdotal comment at the end, but John, I still kick myself for that mistake. My younger self needed a car, right? And the 401k had the money in it. And man, what that would have been today had I not opted for that. I could have gone with a cheaper car.
Oh, yeah.
I should have. Yeah.
The other thing too is, people, they get the market's down. They put their statement in the drawer because they don't want to look at it. And that's the worst thing we can do is not manage the 401. It's your money. And you should be able to make changes as needed based on market conditions and based upon what's happening in the world. You don't want to just throw it in the drawer and pray that, somehow miraculously it's going to turn into $1 million. It's not going to happen.
Well, John, isn't it the direction of money that matters and our time horizon during those moments? I mean, none of us like to see down markets, granted. However, if we are still stable in our job and employment and confident in our paycheck and we're putting money into the 401k, that's one thing. We're actually taking advantage of that downturn in the market and buying in at lower cost and dollar cost averaging and all that good stuff. But as we near retirement, and certainly as we are in retirement, this is why 401ks are specifically designed to be accumulation vehicles supported by our paycheck, not distribution vehicles that actually creates the paycheck income for us, right?
Right. I mean, you're going to create your paycheck in retirement out of this money. And how many times does the market go down and people put their money in the money market account or in the preserve account or, the account that's most a stable value account. And then they leave it there. And 20 years later, they look back and say, well, I made 2% a year, I mean, you got to take care of the money. It's your money. It's not, you got some free money, but it was your money you put aside. You got to manage it and take care of it.
Yeah. And by the way, that free money, you work the same job, you put in the same labor regardless of whether you receive that or not. So it is incentive to put some skin in the game and capture that match. But for, again, all of the benefits that we have talked about of the 401k or the workplace plan, again, a couple other name variations, 403bs, one of them TSPs for federal employees. I think there are even a couple additional ones. But circling back to what you mentioned right at the beginning, John, this is not a pension. It is not a dependable source of income. It is subject to market volatility and dollar cost ravaging and sequence risk. All of these things are drawbacks to the 401k that we need to know about and do have the ability to control.
That's right, Peter. It's an accumulation to retirement. And then when we get to retirement, we have to figure out how we're going to get sustainable, dependable income because it's got to replace our pension. This money is the money we're going to have for the rest of our lives. We may not be able to go back to work. We may not be able to cut our expenses. There are a lot of things that are going to happen in retirement that we're not ready for, you're not thinking about. But, we're not going to be able to work forever. We need to make sure that we take that and then work through that financially focused income plan and come up with a plan that's going to give us the type of income we want guaranteed during retirement.
And subject to withdrawal rate risk, we need to understand how much income we can
Yep.
generate. And then the 401k specifically, and primarily that tax deferred side, subject to taxation in retirement and even changes to taxation, which do happen. As you mentioned, tax rates set to go up in a couple of years. So legislatively, they can change the rules, legislative risk on the tax side of the equation, something to keep in our minds as well.
Well, that's right, Peter. There are a lot of things that are going to affect your retirement, a lot of things that are going to affect the amount of money you have. The thing we have to do is put together a plan that's going to address all of those concerns, give you the Medicare, Social Security, all the taxation, all the things that we need. It's not just an accumulation plan. It's a plan for the rest of your life to have the income you need in retirement. And, Peter, I can say this, we're not needing less income in retirement. We actually are needing more income in retirement because inflation is eating us alive. And while we're working, we're working for a paycheck that's coming in every week or month. That's not going to happen in retirement. And we've got to come up with a budget and a plan to live.
And that may be the most critical takeaway. The 401k is a valuable tool, but it is not a plan. There are questions and complex issues that you do need to understand about making the most of your available tools, but you've got to bring those tools together into the plan. And John, again, the ebook available on your website, the Road to Financial Wellness, as well as your book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement is Not for Wimps, addresses a lot of those questions and complex issues, specifically with our retirement tools that we have available, including but not limited to the 401k. And then you and your team there at GulfCoast Financial Services also help bring all of the tools together to formulate that plan. That is the financially focused written retirement plan that you help your clients and proactive savers and investors put together.
That's right, Peter. It's not retirement's not for wimps. It is not easy being in retirement. It's not easy getting old. In addition to all the the lumps and pains and everything else that grow, you've got to worry about how you're going to live, where your money's coming, and all the legislative and all the traps that you're going to incur with Medicare and Social Security and taxes and everything. It is a full-time job just retiring.
Get the plan in your hands, ladies and gentlemen, to help make your outlook in 2024 and beyond improved. You can have that plan, no cost, no obligation. John and the team will put it together along with you and bringing all the tools into the picture and in consideration, trying to help you maximize Social Security, trying to control and minimize taxes, trying to make the most of the capital that you've worked so hard to build, grow, and accumulate over your lifetime.
Yeah.
And then how do you use those strategies and those tools in order to achieve your financial goals? That's the Financially Focused Written Retirement Income Plan. Pick up the phone if you would like to get that started, put together. 386-755-9018. That's 755-9018, 386-755-9018. Or again, great download, The Road to Financial Wellness, available at GulfCoastFinancial.net, GulfCoastFinancial.net. You'll see that available right as you hit the homepage. And of course, if you want to give a call or stop by the office, John has copies of the book there, and maybe the author will sign a copy for you. Retirement, quitting is for winners, but retirement is not for wimps there at Gulf Coast Financial Services. John, always a pleasure. And I think this is an important topic that we could probably do a series for months on all of the intricacies of the 401k, but a great educational overview of the pros and cons and the what we need to know on today's program.
That's right, Peter. If anybody's got any questions, they can certainly email us or write us or come by and see us. We'd be glad to answer them at no charge. We just love to help people. So thank you so much for having me this week, and I look forward to next week.
A final question, John. If somebody does have that 401k out there and just want a better understanding of maybe how to use and utilize it and what options, is that something that you can help them look over and get a better understanding of the investment options they have inside of the 401k?
Sure, Peter. We do that all the time for people. We'll look at their 401, look at the options, and then make some recommendations of what we see based on the market today and based upon what we know about them through our little conversation we have with them. Then we'll make a recommendation for them to make some changes, which they're free to do. They have to handle those, though, on their own, but we'll certainly be glad to make the recommendations free of charge.
We've got that resource there, which may be another one of the downfalls of the 401k, or at least on that disadvantaged side, is, John, most people don't have that kind of resource giving that kind of guidance available to them there on the job site. Right. And so that's why we consult with experienced, qualified professionals like you and your team at Gulf Coast Financial Services, and one of the many benefits that you all can help provide.
Yeah, we're glad to do it, Peter. We really want to help people. So anytime.
Well, again, if you'd like to take advantage of that opportunity and service, give Gulf Coast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. Once again, John, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Peter. See you next week. Have a good one. Hey, if you'd like a copy of our new book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement's Not for Wimps, I encourage you to click the link below and get your copy today. Hey, we like it when you listen to the show, but we like it better when you like, share, subscribe, or feel free to leave a comment.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with, and securities are offered through, Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.